So what is going on, everyone? Doozy here, and welcome to my top 10 favorite hand cannons from Destiny 1. So disclaimer, this list isn't supposed to be like the best hand cannons, because if that were the case, then this could consist of just the palindrome. Instead, I'm going to be listing my top 10 favorite hand cannons that I enjoy or that I used to enjoy using. And also, I'm only going to include guns that I still have and that I didn't delete like an idiot. Although I will include some of those in the honorable mentions. So I'm sure that my list will be different than what yours is, and that is perfectly fine. I don't expect everyone to have the same taste as I do. But be sure to let me know what your favorite hand cannons of all time were in the comments below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the honorable mentions. So coming in at number 10 is the Last Turd. Now I had to put this in my top 10 not only because of how well this used to go with a sniper, but because it holds a pretty special place in my heart, as this was the very first exotic I got in Destiny 1. I mean, not to mention, you know, it was pretty good too, with it being one of the more dominant weapons in the Crucible for the longest time. So this thing also used to have bonus precision damage when firing from the hip that would actually sometimes proc when you were aimed down sights, and it would seriously, you'd get some insane kills, like it would melt people almost immediately, faster than what it used to, simply because you were getting that bonus damage. And as you can imagine, a lot of people were really salty about this. I mean, granted it was a glitch, and you know, they eventually fixed it before they just entirely removed the bonus precision damage from firing from the hip. Now of course it's a shell of its former self because of how bad this weapon is known to be impacted by the ghost bullets and from all the range nerfs that hand cannons have got. But because of how legendary this thing used to be and how much people used to use it in the Crucible with snipers, not to mention it was my first exotic, it deserves a spot on this list without a doubt. So coming in at number 9, we have the Finalis Peril legendary hand cannon that was obtained from the Year 2 Iron Banner. So if you've been subscribed to me for a while, I'm sure you've heard me crying about this from time to time, about how I accidentally deleted the one that was without a doubt probably one of my best hand cannons ever, and it was the Finalis Peril that had Sure Shot, Rangefinder, Rifle Barrel, and Luck in the Chamber. And to this day, I'm still haunted by that feeling I had in my gut after realizing I deleted the wrong hand cannon, and I remind myself every morning in the mirror of how much of a failure I am and how much I hate myself. Anyways, the one that I still have was the one that was actually sold from the last Iron Banner during the Taken King, and it has the Steady Hand Sight, Outlaw, Rifle Barrel, and Reactive Reload. So I mean, Outlaw and Reactive Reload, you know, they're a very deadly combo, and this allows you to 2-tap somebody if Reactive Reload is active. Although honestly, I would still prefer my old God Roll one that I had. This one's still pretty good, and it's always been a lot of fun to use. And plus, I mean, I just like the design of this one, so it's deserving of the number 9 spot. Next up at number 8 is the Devil You Know. So in the current state of the Crucible, this thing honestly can't really compete, simply because of the fact it has a very low range stat. Although with Rifle Barrel, the max range on the Devil You Know is 49, whereas with the Palindrome, the range is 62. But you know, where it lacks on range, it makes up for it in stability. So before the range nerf to hand cannons, this was honestly really fun to use, simply because it has a high base stability that made it really easy to land follow-up shots, and you didn't really have to worry about as much with range. But you know, I was finally able to get one that didn't come with brace frame. It seemed like every one of these I got had brace frame for some reason, but I finally got one to increase the range. So the role mine has is the Sure Shot Sight, Underdog, Rifle Barrel, and Hidden Hand. So like I said, even with Rifle Barrel, it's hard for this to compete with the Palindrome, but regardless, it's still very fun to use, and it used to be one of my go-tos. I think this came back in the April update, and I got this within the first few weeks of it coming out, so I basically used this 24/7 in the Crucible after that. Although, you know, it still got outgunned here and there. It was honestly, it's always been one of my favorites to use. Coming in at number 7 is the Lord Hotfixer. Without a doubt, this has always been one of my favorite looking hand cannons in the game. Just something about it makes me all happy inside. So the role that I have is the Steady Hand IS Sight, Rangefinder, Hammer Forged, or Explosive Rounds for PvE, and Army of One, which of course, you know, that isn't the best in the palindrome meta, but before hand cannons needed as much range as possible, this is honestly one of my favorite guns to use. And also, the Lord Hotfixer can get the role that the AS Luna and Imago Loop can get, which is the god role that everyone goes for, and that is Rangefinder, Rifled Barrel, and Luck in the Chamber. And for whatever reason, I thought that, you know, I may just be lucky enough to get one, and I continuously grinded the Crucible, I don't know how long, just to of course be let down, because the chances of getting one with that exact role are slim to none basically. But for some reason, I continuously went for it, put myself through torture just to be let down over and over again. So that's about how it goes though. But still, without a doubt, the reason I love this hand cannon so much is, like I said, because it also has explosive rounds, which I would use in PvE a lot. So this was kind of like a jack of all trades before the range was a must on hand cannons. I could use it in PvP if I wanted, then go switch up to PvE and just throw on explosive rounds and just have fun. I mean, I can still use it in PvE, but, you know, as far as PvP goes, it's nowhere near as good as it used to be, but still a lot of fun to use and one of my favorite hand cannons. So for number 6, it is none other than Cade 6's weapon itself, the Ace of Spades. So this weapon is exclusive to the Hunter and was obtained by completing the Gunsmith quests. I remember when I finally got this, it was basically all I ever used when I was on my Hunter, and I remember that I always hated having to switch off of this during the King's Fall raid so that I could use things like, you know, the Black Spindle or the Touch of Malice during encounters. That way I didn't get kicked from the group for not getting that optimal DPS. So not only does this gun look sick, it also has a solid set of perks too. So its intrinsic perk is Third Eye, then after that it has the True Sight IS Sight, then it has Firefly, and then it has Perfect Balance or Reinforced Barrel, whichever one you wanted to use. And its exotic perk is Maverick, which moves 1 round from your ammo reserves to the magazine when you get a precision kill. Although this sometimes will make it feel like you burn through your ammo, it's like really fast, especially during boss encounters. But besides that, it was always a lot of fun to use, and plus, like I said, it looks sick. So coming in at number 5 is a gun that to this day probably still haunts the dreams of people who had to go against this in its pre-nerf form, and that is the Almighty Thorn. So back in the day, this was honestly the bane of the Crucible. It was probably the weapon to cause the most salt to ever come from this game. People complained about this thing all the time, and rightfully so. This thing was really overpowered, especially how it had the ability to 2-tap people. All you had to do was run aggressive ballistics combined with its exotic perk, which is Mark of the Devourer, which causes damage over time, and you could 2-tap people to the head, just run away, and then they'll eventually die. There was really no hope for them to make it out of that unless they had like the Ram or something, or max armor. So this will definitely go down as one of the most overpowered exotics from Destiny 1. And also, the damage over time effect has been nerfed to where it's practically not even there. Not to mention if someone's using the artifact that reduces damage over time in the Crucible. But besides that, this has always been one of my favorite exotics in the game, from just the way it looks and the way it sounds. And I still stand by what I said a few months ago, that I don't think this should have been nerfed as hard as it was, since we have the artifacts to counter it now. But regardless, it will always be one of my favorite hand cannons and favorite exotics as well, so it's very deserving of the number 5 spot. So next up at number 4, we have the Imago Loop. So during the Taken King, along with like the other 90% of the community, I continuously farmed the Undying Mind Strike in hopes of getting that God Roll Fatebringer Imago Loop. Oh, and fun fact, to this day, out of the hundreds of Imago Loops that I've got, not a single one has dropped with Firefly. I could not believe my eyes. Unfunny joke, dead meme, I know, whatever. Even though I never got that Fatebringer roll, I did manage to get myself a pretty solid PvP roll that I basically used 24/7 in the Crucible after I got it. So mine has the Steady Hand IS Sight, then it has Rangefinder, Reinforced Barrel, and Luck in the Chamber. So Rangefinder and Reinforced Barrel gives this thing the max range possible, and it basically turns it into a sniper. Although, of course, it would have been better if I could have got Rifled Barrel instead of Reinforced Barrel, since it lowers your stability. But honestly, after using this a lot, I got used to it, and it really didn't bother me that much. Then, of course, Luck in the Chamber is just a sexy beast all around. Yeah, pretty much for the longest time, this was like basically all I used, even before hand cannons needed like the max range, just because the Rangefinder, Reinforced Barrel, and Luck in the Chamber was just so good. It was one of the most consistent guns that I had, even with Reinforced Barrel. Of course, it could have better sights too. I mean, Steady Hand is okay, but I would have preferred like True Sight or Sure Shot, just a personal preference. But still, without a doubt, one of my favorite hand cannons. And also, I guess I'll do like a little shout out here. I had another Imago Loop that had True Sight, Outlaw, and then I think it had Rifled Barrel. Or no, it had Outlaw, then it had Explosive Rounds, and then its final perk was Grenadier. So it was close to the Fatebringer, but no Firefly. So coming in at number 3, this gun needs no introduction, but it is the almighty Fatebringer. So whereas the Thorn used to be the bane of the Crucible, the Fatebringer used to be the bane of PvE, with possibly one of the best set of perks on any weapon in Destiny. it was pretty obvious as to why people creamed their pants when they would get this from the Vaulted Glass. And for you newer players who came into Destiny kinda late, believe it or not, this actually used to be really good and PvP as well. But just like with the Devil You Know, now it's hard for it to compete since it doesn't have anything to increase its range. But honestly, who really cares about the Fatebringer PvP? It's a PvE god, so let's just keep it there. So at number 2, we have the oh so sexy Hawkmoon. And even though this is number 2 on this list, it is without a doubt my favorite exotic hand cannon in the game, and also one of my favorite exotics of all time. There's really nothing about this gun that I don't love, except for, you know, the bloom effect and the range nerfs to hand cannons, which that's not specific to the Hawkmoon. Anyways, so with this not only having luck in the chamber, but also holding aces, which gives you 2 more lucky bullets in the mag, it made it possible to 2-tap people to the head if you were lucky, and the luck in the chamber proc 2 times in a row. And if that's not enough cheese for you, I don't know if any of you remember, but there used to be a glitch to where 2 luck in the chamber bullets would apply to 1 shot, and it would do, I think, up to 223 precision damage, which of course would be a 1-shot kill on anybody, which is absolutely insane. But eventually it was fixed, which rightfully so. That was kind of OP to be able to 1-shot somebody with a hand cannon. So probably the sexiest gun in Destiny, hands down, and very deserving of the number 2 spot. And also, if we could choose one exotic to take to Destiny 2, this would probably be it. Either this or the Mida. So one of my favorites, without a doubt. So coming in at the number 1 spot is the very sought after AS Luna. Basically the legendary version of the Hawkmoon, but with better stats. Now, it was a close match between the Hawkmoon and my baby AS Lunas for the number 1 spot, but in the end, the AS Luna pulled ahead. So I actually have 2 of these with near perfect rolls. So the first one is on my main account, and it has Sure Shot IS Sight, Rangefinder, Small Bore, and Hidden Hand. Then my other one, which is on my alternate account, has the Sure Shot IS Sight, Rangefinder, Rifle Barrel, and then Army of One. So neither of these are considered the god roll, but you know, they're pretty darn close. So the first one with Small Bore and Rangefinder actually performs better than one with just Rangefinder, because it increases your range to 28.5 meters, whereas one with just Rifle Barrel would only increase your range to 27.5 meters. But also another bonus from Small Bore is that increased stability combined with Sure Shot and Hidden Hand. You know, it makes it really easy to control and land those follow-up shots. And then there's the one on my other account that has the Rangefinder and Rifle Barrel, which gives you the max range of 30 meters, which, you know, helps it be way more consistent at greater distances. Although, if I'm just being honest here, if I'm on a map with, you know, close quarters such as like the Anomaly or the Cauldron, or, you know, something like that, I actually prefer the one with Small Bore and Rangefinder, because the extra increase in range isn't as big of a deal, plus it has more stability and Hidden Hand to help with that target acquisition. But still, both of these are amazing rolls on an amazing gun that is without a doubt my favorite hand cannon in Destiny, which is why it has the number 1 spot on this list. So anyways guys, that is my top 10 favorite hand cannons for Destiny 1. Once again, I didn't base this list simply off of how good these are in the current meta, but more on the fact of how fun they are, or how fun they used to be. So I'm sure many of you have different guns that you would prefer, and you know, I know you have different lists than mine, so be sure to let me know in the comments below. But anyways, that is it for this video. So as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, if you could take a second to leave a thumbs up on the video, I would really appreciate it. And also be sure to subscribe if you're new here. And until next time, I will catch you all later.